Hello and welcome to the channel. If you're new, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, please make sure you hit the like button. In today's video, a day in the life of a Honda technician, part 1 or episode 1, whatever you want it to be. I'm going to do a little voiceover over some of the stuff. I cannot play the audio for the actual videos here because of copyright and people talking, other stuff there. Just trying to be nice and not make anybody mad at work. So what I'm working on here is a 2021, a 2021 Honda crf 110f. And this thing is beat. I forgot to turn the GoPro on when I first started working on it. I actually took the rear wheel off, which the owner had broke the adjusters and decided to weld the axle to the swing arm. So I got to break the or cut the axle out of the rear, and then I removed the wheel off of it, and I put a brand new tire on it. And right here, actually in it, I'm trying to get this master link off. I should have just went ahead and cut it. That's what I initially was going to do. But I figured I'd maybe save this chain if this guy wanted this thing. But I was putting a new one on it anyway, so I don't even know why I did this. Just kind of wasted my time, flat rate. Normally, I wouldn't use somebody's swing arm with their chain on it there and scratch it all up, but we're putting a brand new one on this one, so why not use it as a bench? And these pliers I just grabbed out of the drawer are made by Vamp Plier. They're a beast. I actually have like 3 or 4 sets, different ones. They pretty much grab anything you grab a hold of and don't slip. You can take carburetor bowl screws out if they're completely rounded with that. You can actually grab the screw and twist it out with it, and it doesn't slip. It bites right into it. They're amazing. Not sponsored by them or anything. I wish I was. Vamp Plier, hint, hint. And sorry if you hear any like clicking noises or anything in the background. My dog's running around here like a madman tonight. But yeah, I don't use all name brand tools. I do buy some stuff, Harbor Freight and whatnot. I like nice tools and stuff. I try not to buy anything junk because I got to use it daily, and I usually don't buy anything unless I'm making money with it. I don't like to buy stuff that's just going to sit there in a toolbox. So pretty much everything in my toolbox I use all the time. Don't get me wrong. There's tools that I have that I don't use every single day, but for the most part, I've gotten all the tools that are just sitting there stagnant, that aren't making me money, that are getting in my way, slowing me down. I've got them out of there and got stuff, and I still buy stuff that I know is going to make me money, or it's going to make the job a lot easier. What I'm doing here is removing the swing arm slider. It's not very big on this one. It's just really, really thin. This guy, I guess, opted out to buy a brand new slider for the new swing arm, so I'm going to reuse that. Bike is a 21, but I mean, I wish you guys could have seen the rear tire. They decided to sit there and do like rolling burnouts, or or sit there and hold it doing burnouts. It was smoked. And by now you've probably heard the background music. I'm trying to play some softly, so it's just not me talking. Let me know if you guys like that. Drop me a comment or whatnot. You don't want any music in the background, I get it. Some people just want to see what's going on. I wish I could just play the audio inside the shop, but literally we have 3 radios going at one time, and it'd be a nightmare to try to edit that stuff out. Anyway, so I just cleaned that swing arm slider off, and I'm putting it onto the brand new OEM swing arm from Honda. I'm reusing the hardware. you can see, it's kind of struggling a little bit there. This thing was covered in like concrete dust, this bike. So, you know, when I get done with this, putting the swing arm and rear wheel back on it with the chain, I'm actually going to wash this thing before I do the actual first service on this bike. It's getting a valve adjustment and, you know, air filter. It's going to get cleaned, oil changed, all the good stuff. Putting a new axle in this also, or swing arm bolt. I got all new swing arm bolts for it. The top shock one is the original. So putting the nut on, the swing arm bolt, and then I'm going to put the shock bolt, which would be the bottom shock bolt, into the top of the swing arm. There's that. Got to put the nut on still. There wasn't any washers or spacers and that stuff, if anybody's curious about that on theirs. And if you want to know what the torque specs are, I don't know if you'll be able to read the sheet that I'm going to have, but just drop me a comment or whatnot. And these are the torque specs. Service advisors are actually on their game today and had my torque specs ready for me for this job to make it faster and keep me going, keep me efficient. You know, when you're doing flat rate, you definitely have to be efficient, and it's not just you got to make sure your whole team's efficient. If not, you know, you're going to have some unhappy people, you know, from down the line, you know, techs and going back up, you know, just because you're paying everybody's salary too. At least at ours. But I believe this is a 17 and a 14, if anybody's curious. And it was 37 foot-pounds is what the sheet I had said to torque this at. The swing arm bolt at the bottom is a 19 and a 17, I believe, on the other side. And it was 44, I think, foot-pounds. Yeah, 44 foot-pounds on the swing arm bolt. And this guy actually opted out on putting sprockets on there. I'm getting ready to put a new chain on as well. But normally, you know, rule of thumb, when you put a new chain on a bike, you put new sprockets on there. Because when your sprockets are worn, you put a new chain on there, it's just going to wear out quick because there's some slop in the teeth at that point. And from the chains being stretched and whatnot on the bikes. So, you know, don't be cheap and buy good chains. It kills me. People buy these cheap $12 chains and they put them on their expensive motorcycles or ATVs, and you know, I'm putting cases on them and stuff. I mean, it keeps me going. I'm happy that you guys are still paying me for that kind of stuff, but definitely it would be more enjoyable for you guys, the consumer, to just get the correct stuff. Don't buy cheap China-made stuff and put on there. No offense to China stuff, but the stuff we're getting over here is terrible. You get the OEM stuff, the Japanese stuff, it's good. No fitment issues. Occasionally you might have something. I mean, it's humans that make it, so you're going to have a blemish here and there, but for the most part, you know, it's OEM, so it's going to last like the last OEM thing that you took off there did. I've had people ask me before in videos, if you've seen my video right now, you see I'm using this knife to cut this stuff open. That's pretty much my daily driver. It's a Benchmade mini griptilian. People have asked before what it was, so it's what it is. It's my daily driver right there. Thing's a beast. I can't remember what, maybe CMP or something like that, or CMP 154. I can't remember what the blade material was on there. It's an older one. It's not one of the newer ones. But one-handed, man, you can flip that thing open and closed one-handed, so it's a beast. It's not spring assisted either, so it flips very easy. Locks with that sweet locking system on it, and I've never had one fail at the lock there and, you know, come back and cut your fingers if you're really prying on them. And actually the tips, and I mean, this blade's got to be 7-8 years old as my everyday knife, and it is lasted. The tip's not even broke off of it, so go Benchmade. Cutting up in all the new OEM parts for this puppy. New axle nuts, it's a rear axle, new chain adjusters. There's one of the old returnable crates for a four-wheeler I just built in between working on this thing. Had to go out for a customer. I'm actually putting a new seal in this thing for the wheel bearing. This guy, when he welded it, it melted the seal up a little bit there, so get that one out of there. That's actually a Mac seal puller from Mac Tools. You don't have to buy that. The Harbor Freight one works great, but you know, I worked long enough and deserved to buy the nice one, so I got it. That's Honda brake clean that I'm using there also. I'm just cleaning it up there, getting all of the nasty grime and melted seal out. And now I'm putting a brand new OEM one in there. I didn't have the correct size seal driver, so as you'll see, I'm just going to use the socket. And it's not bad. It you don't have to buy fancy seal drivers to put seals in. Do this every day, just kind of line it up for whatever tools I have socket-wise in there. I mean, there is a whole cabinet in the shop there that has OE Honda seal drivers and whatnot in it also, but that takes time. And I mean, I see if this was like an engine or something, but this is a wheel bearing seal on a sealed wheel bearing, just to keep the dust out of there. So, and frankly, it seated down perfectly anyways. And these seals actually that we get, they do have like some kind of a lube on the outside of them, so I'm not just jamming that thing in there dry. It's got some lube around the actual seal from whenever I pulled it out of the package. Put that back in there, and a little OCD with putting tools back in their spot, but I don't lose tools. I still have my original 10 millimeters on all of my socket sets in there, and you want to keep your tools, you know. I pay a lot of money for the tools that are in there, even cheap stuff. I mean, if you add up the cheap stuff that you've broke, you know, as a technician, you know, it gets expensive too. So the video kind of jumps around in spots because I have to cut people walking into the bay, service advisors, whatnot. You know, they ask not to be filmed, so. So right here, I am just taking this old brake drum, or outer shoe holder for the brake drum, and cleaning it up. I got the old brake shoes in there right now, so no, I'm not using those brake shoes. They're putting brand new OEM ones back in there. I'm just kind of getting the grime and stuff off. There isn't any O-ring that's on this. It just fits together. Some wheels have, you know, O-rings in those grooves, but those grooves, the way that they sit in there, kind of seals it up for the most part. You know, if they're mud bogging them or whatnot, there's going to be mud in there. I mean, kids are going to be kids. I think some adults got on this one and decided to do, or older kids that were too big for this got on there and kind of destroyed it. You'll see later in here, when I'm tightening the handlebars up on this thing, I had to put a new set on there. The stock clamps actually had a fracture, and as I'm tightening it down, it just split the rest of the way. So I'm glad it actually did it while it was there before, you know, the customer got it back. So I get to put a new one of those on too. It won't be in this video, sadly, though. I ran out of battery. So blowing it out now with some air. drying it off, and then I'm going to go and get the OEM shoes. Let's see, they are right over here. And what's nice about these actually is the OEM shoes are loaded with the springs and stuff already on them, so you know the spring tension is not crazy on this little guy, so you can just kind of pop it up there with the screwdriver and then use your hands to pull it apart off of the cam, and then the other side is just a fixed pin for say. Well, the cam spreads it and pushes both shoes out into the drum inside the wheel. The drum's made into the hub of the wheel on this one. But yeah, there's the big ones. If you're putting these on, just make sure when you see one side's flat, one side's round. The round one goes to the pin, obvious, and the flat side goes to the cam, so that when the cam turns, it's spreading the shoes. And as you can see there, it's got a little bit of tension to it, and you got to kind of work it a little bit down in there. I don't really use any kind of like a lube or anything inside of here. I try to get all the grease and stuff out of there. Every once in, when I'm putting the cam that goes in there, you can take that cam out of that little piece that's in my hand now going into the wheel, and you can actually clean that cam that turns the shoes. And I'll use like an assembly lube / anti-seize in there that I have, and you'll see that later on in here. I'm not going to use it, I don't think, for this particular thing, but somewhere in here I use that on this bike. Cleaning that out, I actually used a contact cleaner that was an electrical contact cleaner. That way doesn't leave any kind of residue in there. And now I'm going to use, and that dries it up real fast. Also, I'm using a piece of Scotch-Brite to just get any kind of dirt or anything. I'm not really putting a whole lot of pressure in there, not resurfacing this drum or anything. I'm just getting any kind of foreign material off the drum that the kid might have, or adult might have ran over and got in there, and just want the stuff to last. Putting it in there, put a little dignity into your work, and keep people coming back to you. And that's regular. It's actually brake clean from Honda. So I'm spraying that out of there. You got to watch that stuff though, because you get it on some plastics and some paints, and there won't be no paint there no more, or the plastic will turn white, or discolored real bad. So yeah, right now I'm getting ready to slide the rear wheel with a brand new tire on it up in there, and it also is getting a brand new axle because the old one was welded and had to be broke out of the other swing arm. Putting the brake arm bolt through the cam pin, or whatever you want to call that thing there, follower dowel, I don't even know what the heck you call that thing. New axle. As you can see, before you put the axle through, you want to make sure you have one of the chain adjusters already on the axle. Don't make the mistake tightening everything down. I didn't do that in here, but everybody's that's worked on these things and put those on has probably left one side off before by accident. It's also getting a brand new wheel spacer on that side. Just wanted to change it too, because whenever they broke that chain adjuster and welded it there, that I would imagine it got cranked down pretty tight on there, and it kind of distorted the old one. So put a new one on there. I don't really have access to the machine shop here at this place, so I could have turned it down or milled it down a little bit, but also the spacing's crucial. I'm also using a Honda penetrating spray. I don't usually use anti-seize on bolts. Kind of have mixed stuff on the axles, for say. I do use it on other bolts, but on the axle, I use like a penetrating lube. The anti-seize, like for people that are riding off-road and stuff like, and gravel road and stuff a lot, what happens is that stuff sticks to dirt sticks to the anti-seize. So you get that stuff up around the seal and everything, and then all of a sudden you get that dirt stuck there, and now it's just grinding the seal out. And then it gets past the seal and destroys the bearings. And, I raced off-road racing forever, so, we didn't use anti-seize on those. We used the penetrating lube. If you service your bike like you're supposed to, you're going to be adjusting the chain and, pulling it back and forth and putting tires and stuff on it a lot anyways. It's when they sit, but with penetrating lube in there also, it keeps it from corroding, so I've had really good luck with it, so that's what I'm going to stick to. I've used it, like I say, forever, even not that particular brand all the time, but that's what we get back here, and it actually is really good. I use it to clean carburetor bowls when you get that really green stuff in some of the carb bowls. I mean, it'll take that stuff out of there. It's awesome. But, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put a brand new chain on here. That's an OEM chain. Don't normally put the OEM ones back on there. Most people usually upgrade them, like I said before. Don't buy the cheap ones. I mean, this one's probably premium. It's still a DID chain. It's not the best DID chain. You could buy an O-ring chain, and it's probably going to last, or an X-ring chain is what they call them now. It's going to last a lot longer. I don't have to cut this chain. This chain here is actually an OEM length specific for this bike. So I just slam it together with the new master link and stuff, and I'm well within spec of adjustments whenever I did tighten this down. As you can see, the foot peg's bent too. They opted out on buying that. I was supposed to put those on. They actually bent both of them, and the handlebars and stuff were all twisted up on it too. And I had straightened that shifter out a little bit. It was curled up underneath the case some. And make sure when you're putting, if you're putting the master link on there, you don't want it the open end facing the way that the chain is going the direction of. So you don't want it if you clip it up on the top part of the chain, if you have it up there, you don't want it facing forward with the open end, because you get mud and stuff going, and that's going towards the engine, and anything that gets caught in that little mud guard there can actually knock the master link off, and then you bound the chain up in there and break the case, and it's not a good thing. Hopefully I'm not boring you guys too much. This is probably going to be a long video. There is a lot of footage here. There's a lot of gigs. I burn a full battery up on this thing, so it is definitely got some footage for this bike, but I just wanted to show you guys what a day in the life of a Honda technician is. What do I do daily here? I don't just put bikes together and do PDIs and setups all day long. I'm doing the nitty gritty also. That's what I mainly do, is the nitty gritty part there. I don't just get to do the gravy stuff all day, which, I've done that before. I've worked my way up through Honda dealerships, and I've worked from the bottom. I've been in setup 18 years ago, started in setup, and worked in parts forever as a parts person. I also did service advising. I was a general manager at one point. I wouldn't want that again. I just like it in the back, man. The public, after a while, man, it wears on you. And honestly, my dream job was being a technician. Growing up, my family had transmission shops, and I worked at them, my uncles, and my grandfather. And I learned so much stuff. Unobtainium amount of stuff, from those guys. I wish all of them were here still. I got my uncle still, at least. And I just put the 3 8mm bolts back into that swing arm, and I'm using a little 14.4 quarter-inch drive snap-on gun. It is very low torque, but I still get my inch-pound torque wrench out because just so used to doing this stuff. And you say what you say, it doesn't slow me down any, man. I crank flat rate hours out. And that's the new chain adjuster nuts getting put on there. One is a 12 millimeter. The other is a 10. The 12 goes on the inside and the 10 to the outside. This one here, I don't know, with the gloves on, it was a little hard there. I'd actually just, in between there, I had to cut the video, and I think I was doing an air filter or something, or changed the tire or whatnot, so gloves got all nasty. I should have just took them off. But setting the side by the little marks there, thing's got a bunch of range of motion there. The slot's actually pretty big on there. I think that was like 3 back, and maybe that's where I was setting this to, and just trying to align it up right now. Loosening one side, tightening the other. Checking my chain there, making sure it's not too loose, too tight. Normal stuff. And now just going to look and see what the torque spec is for the rear wheel there, and go ahead and get that. I can't remember. I can't see what it was, but if you're curious, you can always look it back up and work there and let you know what it is. I think it might have been 44 on the rear axle too, but not 100%. This isn't like an actual tutorial video. I can do those. I've done them in the past on some other stuff. Actually, I'm going to redo a couple of them that I've put up. But this is just, day-to-day maintenance stuff here I'm doing. Part swap out. I believe that is a 14 and a 17 millimeter on those also. And torquing that down. Give it a quick spin. It would have spun more, but it was actually dragging the lift a little bit there. I didn't have it all the way up too high on that jack there, so the tire is a lot bigger than the fried one that I took off whenever I first did it. Again, I'm going to use a 10 millimeter and a 12 millimeter and snug those down. You do not have to crank them down. They break easy. That's why this like $1,600 job is getting done. No, I don't know how much it really is, but I'm sure you spent a lot of money to get this replaced there. I wish Honda would use like I think the back bolt, the 12 millimeter bolt, should be thicker, as thick as a wrench. That way you can put a full 10 millimeter on the other one. But I think they do that so you don't really crank them down hard, and people still manage to crank the heck out of them on there. I think they're tightening the back one down without a wrench on the other one, just cranking it into the swing arm, and that's how they break those bolts off there. And yeah, they think that they can crank the axle down as tight as you can get it then, which crushes the swing or the wheel bearings. I mean, I see it all day long. It's crazy. Should see the stuff. I was trying to get my lift was stuck there at like a safety on it. So I was lifting everything up there. And now it's time to wash this pig. What I got there is just a Harbor Freight sprayer. Man, it was like 104 degrees outside, so I'd wash this thing inside in the back bay. Usually we have a wash bay outside, but it was so hot I didn't want to go out there, so I cheated today and did this one inside. It wasn't too dirty. It just had all kinds of like concrete dust on it. But what I used in that sprayer is the Honda Bright cleaner, and it actually In this particular case, it is not watered down. Usually we'll put like 2 bottles in there of the bigger bottles in that sprayer, and then fill halfway up with water, kind of cut it down. But we've had a couple of units that have been really nasty, so I've been hitting it up with full strength stuff. And as you can see here, I mean, this thing, I don't know if the video picks it up as good, but it has like this fine layer of like dust from the not asphalt but concrete or whatever, or peat gravel or something that they've been riding on a lot. And I was just basically just spraying this on there and then hosing it off to get the dust off, because what you'll see next is I'll be doing a valve adjustment and changing oil and stuff, and I gotta have the valve cover off, so I don't want any dirt getting down inside there and causing harm. I think actually also on this thing, I think that they had tried to change the oil or something maybe. I don't think the drain plug was stock on this thing, because definitely was not a stock Honda washer. They had like some kind of plastic washer on there, and it looked really long. I was kind of worried there that it could be close enough to hit the crank, but obviously they brought it in there and had rode it. And so when I finally started it up, I listened to make sure there was no noises or anything. And actually, I turned it over by hand, doing the valve adjustment there. So you'll see that soon. And like I say, I just hosed this thing off. That's the Honda Bright. It's a red bottle. It's got, I think it's got a yellow and red label on it and a red bottle. It's pretty awesome stuff. Actually, you can soak carburetors with that stuff. And as long as you wash them out good when you pull it out of it, don't let the carburetor sit and dry with it in there. If you let it sit in there, like I'll put them in there and let them sit overnight at the end of the day. And the next morning when I come in, they look like brand new. It's not as fast as like an ultrasonic cleaner, but it does work good. Like, this thing right here was terrible looking, and it turned out pretty good after I washed it. It is a 21. But if you would have seen the rear tire and the bubblegum weld on the swing arm and how they had the bolt welded into it, and you can see the rear fender, it's definitely, they were 12 o'clock in that thing up, and they got that thing ground down pretty good. It's probably missing an inch or two off the rear tail section. And it's not a full detail, They probably didn't charge this guy full. I'm pretty sure I wrote down that it only took like a minute or two to spray it down, just to kind of make sure they cover themselves with the shop supplies. I know people hate that, but I've worked at many shops, and you got to charge it. This stuff's not free to us. We don't get free truckloads of chemicals to put in Hondas. We have to pay for that stuff. Not me as a technician out of my pocket, but as a company. And, the company does better. The people that work there do better, at least at, the dealerships I work at. It's always how they've treated us. And, you got to charge it on there. And they don't charge you, full price for every single bottle. They just, they go by a percentage, of what the ticket is. I don't think they can go over like $20 unless we physically, do use 4 or 5 cans of brake clean, which they'll bill that stuff out separately. And that's usually what happens is, with, our dealership is we bill per can, to the unit. And if there's leftovers, I'm a nice guy. I put stuff in bags and give it back to the customer. Some places will stock up with, 35 cans, of brake clean that they've, halfway full and they're on the shelf. But I try to use them all up, and I don't waste them on every job, but I make sure that it's clean before it leaves. It's not dripping oil, off the skid plate if we changed the oil or something, and it, you didn't have to pull the skid plate. I clean it all up good. And that's, usually what keeps the people coming back. And I'm blabbing on there, but so what I'm doing here is Before I change these bars out, I'm going to go ahead and change the lever out, or lever, however you guys want to say it. I'm going to go ahead and clean all the grease off there. I actually this is where I think before I said I was going to use like an assembly lube type stuff. This is, I think it's like Bel-Ray assembly grease lube. I think it had like Molly or something in it. I can't remember. But I use it all the time. I put a little dab on there, put the new bolt back in into that. It threads in, it's pivoting. There's actually like a bushing that's in there. And this stuff here actually is thick like a paste. It kind of keeps the stuff out. There's not a seal there anyways. So whatever's going to get in is going to get in. But that just kind of keeps it from, going in freely, for say. Plus, like the Molly that's in there, it's slick. So the handle doesn't have a whole bunch of stiction to it. I crank it down. And then I'm getting ready to put a new nut on the back side. As you can see, that throttle tube and grip is all ground down, and the bars got a slight tweak to them, so I'm going to put the new handlebars on them in this part. And before I put this guy's cable on, I'm going to get this dry lube. It's like a Molly lube that goes for cables there. This stuff is awesome. It's like a little needle, and it's got some kind of like little weight in the inside there that you shake up. As you turn it upside down with the plug over the little needle, hold the cable up, or at an angle where you can get that in there, and then you turn it up like I got in the video here, and squeeze some down into the cable. You can probably see this price tag. That stuff's expensive. But it definitely goes a long way, man. I use that stuff every day on something, and I've probably had that same bottle for 5 months, I'd say, and it's still probably quarter of the way. I mean, you're not just flushing it through the system there. That stuff is the way that it works. It kind of penetrates in there, and it moves down the cable. It's really super thin, and a little bit goes a long ways in that stuff there. And if the cable's that seized to where you need to lube it all the way through the cable to the bottom, you probably need a new cable. Just saying. I'm good and get the free play and stuff adjusted back out of it there. Get that set. I kind of do them by eye. I feel there. There's not a whole lot of movement as anyways on this brake lever, but I kind of go by feel. I feel out the customer, for say, like this guy. He's definitely. He's rode the snot out of it. He's not been on the thing for 5 minutes and just wrecking it. It's had the guts ran out of it for a 21. So I'm going to give him, not the loosest brake, but not the tightest brake either. If it was mine, I would tighten it up big time. But no, don't tighten the drain plug up big time. Torque it to the spec. I believe they're 18 foot-pounds on this. But yeah, I'm draining the oil now. It's a 17 usually, but this thing has a honestly, I think they got a standard bolt in the hole on this is what happened. Because my sockets that I put on there were sloppy, and I didn't want to put I don't think they wanted to put a new drain plug in it either. They had already put that thing in there, so whatever. I noticed, like I said, it's longer than the other stock one. And no, it's not the tensioner one. I didn't pull that out. That's the oil drain that's coming out of there. As you can see, that stuff is nasty. It's had lots and lots of time on it. That's a big thing for us. I don't understand. This isn't a liquid cooled motor. It's an air cooled motor. So you want to change the oil out more frequently. It's only like 1.1 quart or 1 quart of oil, so get it out of there. Ride that thing for a couple weekends, or if you're gonna ride it all week, even like if you're riding that thing all week and as a kid, that thing's bouncing rev limiter and stuff, and it's not getting any like cool down time. They're running the guts out of them, so the oil's cheap enough to where you can, if you're running it that much in a week, just change it out of there. You don't have 4 or 5 quarts in an oil cooler and air in oil or water cool. But anyways, I'm just jibber jabbing. I'm pulling the valve cover off of this now. It has 210 millimeters. Let's make sure when you pull that off there that you pull it off easy. There's a dowel pin, and the gasket's the main thing. You don't want to stretch on it, because if you stretch it, then you got to put a new one on there. And in this case, you can usually do a couple valve adjustments before you have to put the new rubber gasket if you're easy with it there. Some people get a little crazy and put Honda Bond on the dip, as you can see, kind of right there. There's like a half moon shaped piece there, and yeah, on the old stuff, you did that, but the newer gaskets and stuff that they have are good. I'm gonna getting the giant Allen screw cover out. I think it was a 12 mil is what that one was, as far as the Allen goes. And then it's got a big Phillips slot, but I actually have a tool for that, because if you use a Phillips and it's not wide enough, then it damages those plugs, which is above that one that I got that socket on. And I think that's a 14, as you can see there. I had that other socket that was on there; it was too loose. So, and there's an arrow on there, and you can turn it back a little bit. Most people, everybody's gonna say don't turn it backwards. I don't fully turn them over backwards, but if you go past your TDC, you can rock it back a little bit, as long as it's not right locked on to the compression. You'll feel it. In this case, this one here is you're turning it as you're turning the nut off on it, so it's kind of weird. Some people are like, oh no, I'm going to turn it and the bolt's going to come off, but you're not hitting it with the impact gun. You're just turning the motor over slowly so that I can get it to TDC. A lot of times what I do is, I watch the intake valve on it. A lot of times, you can go through these. For this video, I actually just pulled the plugs out on it and am doing it the correct way. But what I'll do is I'll actually look at the intake valve, and you can tell it'll drop, and when it comes back up, and then the next one's going to be, your exhaust or whatnot on it there. But you watch the intake valve drop, and then when it comes back up, then you have a little bit of cam overlap, per se, and before the piston is at top dead center. So for me to check it, I pull the plug out, which I'm putting a new plug in this one anyway, so that's why I already pull it out for this. But and I think I even, as an example, show you, but I use like a small screwdriver. I don't put it down in there and hit the button and crank it over, but I put it down into the cylinder and check and see if it's right at top dead center, or I have a scope that I use too. And yeah, you can see OCD kicking in there, putting tools and stuff back too early already, but hey, it works for me. I'm still moving pretty good, and I'm looking for a screwdriver, and I usually get a thin one, like I said, small one that fits the hole. You're not going to damage the threads. You don't want to slam it in there. And I just pushed it in there a little bit, and literally the piston's right there on these. You can a lot of times shine a flashlight in there and see it, but so to tap that center, that's the tool that I was saying, that little slot tool. It's made for that. It's actually the exact size of the slots there. So I believe that one's a Motion Pro. I think I have a Honda one too. The Honda one's nice. Motion Pro one's not bad either, but definitely not a Honda tool. The Honda tools are sweet, but they're definitely a lot more money. And like I said, I pull that little top cover off. Now I'm just spinning it over. I'm like I said, I'm going the way that the arrow on the flywheel says. I had already been at a spot on there where I could see the arrow. And like I say, I already know which way this thing turns on this particular motors because I've done a bunch of them. But I'm shining it in there. But as a technician, you can see that this way takes, longer. So I'm fully turning it over to make sure that the the piston is there where it needs to be, and getting it to the top dead center mark again on it. And like I say, when you're at top dead center, you're in between that overlap there from when your intake valve is dropped and it's coming back up. For the compression stroke of it, per se. It's actually, like I say, it took me longer probably to set this one because I'm so used to doing it the other way, and then trying to find those little marks without just kind of standing in front of the bike, or straddling over, and or being on whatever side of the ATV or motorcycle that I need to be on, and turning it over, one arm reaching under it or whatnot, or there's even some models that you can bump them over, with the starter, and you can watch it, and then to get it far enough through where it needs to be to do it. But I'll have other videos. I'll show you all the little tricks to making stuff a little bit faster. I guess I had bumped the camera in on the helmet there, or hat, and I think some of this footage here, it was angled up a little high, so it's cutting hands or some of the motions out, but it's still there. It's just you get what I'm doing, turning wrenches and stuff there. I'm actually writing down specs and stuff of what it is there. I had pulled the feeler gauge out and checked it. I had 2 of them there, and wrote down what it was, and that actually was surprisingly in spec. A lot of the times, though, I mean, these little motors are so bulletproof on them. Unless you kill, clog the air filter up on it, or you don't put oil in it, these things are tanks. So, plus this thing's had the guts ran out of it. And like the air filter was pretty clean, so I didn't expect it to be tight valves, like where it had beat the seats out of it or whatnot yet. But I think this thing was right in between the spec of where it needed to be. I think that was a .152, if I believe right. Yeah, and the other one was a .102. So yeah. They got a little range. It's got to be like 0.08 to 0.12 or something, you know what I mean? I like to set them in between, depending on what it is. If it's a race bike, and, they're trying to start faster, there's other little tricks that you'll do in there. But we'll get into that in a different video. This one's, just isn't a race bike. It's a fun bike, trail bike. I'm not going to do all that to this. This thing starts, it's got electric start and kick start, and it starts very easily. As you may see, I can't remember if I actually, battery makes it long enough to test drive it, but yeah. Torque wrench back out, torque the plugs. Man, I see people all the time do videos, or just get it down and do an UGG on it, or whatever, or seat it down and choke up on it, and then pull it a little bit further past whenever you can't tighten it with, don't do that. I worked at a machine shop, building race engines also, and not now, but I in the past. And even a lot of the 1,000, 13, 1,400 horsepower motors that we were doing, 14 foot-pounds was it on those spark plugs. I mean, there's so much stress there already on the cylinder. You don't need to pull the threads tight and pull them out. That's why the threads are a certain length, and there's a certain plug that goes in the stuff. You're not supposed to put a plug that's too small or too long for the hole there. It's made for that, to be at a certain poundage there. But anyways, yeah. Now, like I say, that one there, actually Hondas are 16 foot-pounds. So on these aluminum heads are 16 foot-pounds. 2 more pounds than what we were using on, big high-performance stuff. But I never go any higher than that. Most of the time I'm so used to doing 14, I only do 14. So, but like I say, for this video, I did it by the book. I had just pulled that gasket off there. It was actually kind of being a pain in the butt. You got a little O-ring that hangs out, and it's on there, as you can see right there in that little corner of the valve cover. That's where the dowel pin's at, opposite of the little half-moon piece there. But I kept trying to put this thing in there, and the damn fender was messing me up, and then the gasket would fall out. So make sure it's clean and all that stuff. There's no oil up behind the other side of it. I'd already, you couldn't see it in this thing, just because the camera angle had actually got bumped up a little bit. But I had to clean behind it there on the valve cover, and been wiping the gasket down there and got all the oil off the backside so it's not touching the head and leaking out. And then I'm making sure the dowel pin is down, because if you do not get that dowel pin sealed down, it will spray oil everywhere. Also making sure that half-moon piece on there was definitely seated in, and it's not to the inside or the outside of it, because you will have oil spraying out of it. Trust me. And I believe, if I remember correctly, I think, actually, yeah, it's 110 inch-pounds. I don't even know why I'm second-guessing myself. I crank them down with the ratchet there. they're not even completely seated there, but the bolt, because it's pulling that gasket down there, it looks like I'm really cranking them down, but I haven't even got it to where I can torque it yet. It's getting ready to seat and then torque. So these bolts, you don't have to put a whole bunch on. If you do, it will break the head or the valve cover, so you don't want to do that. I like I say, it's 110 is what I go to on inch-pounds. That's what I set them all to. And that's usually right where it seats, and then just a little past it is what it is, essentially. But get a torque wrench, people. Quit just hand tighten stuff. I mean, there's a reason. I'm not saying that I'm the greatest technician or mechanic or engine builder in the world, but there's a reason why you see people out there when they're racing with high performance engines. And not to say that back garage people stuff. I mean, I love a lot of back garage projects, but if you torque stuff, especially this kind of stuff, and internal parts there to the proper torque spec, it is going to last a lot longer. It's not going to have these stupid little engine failures or parts flying off or whatnot. Just torque it to where it's supposed to be. And on Hondas, if you torque them too much, there it breaks the case, especially on case bolts and drain plugs. So make sure that you go to torque on those. I know it's the same on a lot of the other Japanese bikes as well. So just writing down here as a technician, you're always documenting also. I don't usually show this stuff because I'm trying to keep the customer's name and stuff out of there. But yeah, writing down notes and stuff there, that way that the advisor can give all that back to the customer, know where everything was at. They can, be assured that we did the work. We didn't just say we did it, which is terrible. But I've seen it. Not personally at our place. We have really good technicians here. But I've been other places in the past, and it's terrible what people will do to scumbag their way into money. It's the way I look at it. And just putting the drain plug back in with a factory drain plug washer. I think that's I'm pretty sure it was regular 12 millimeter. They do got some funky new, like 12.12 or something crazy size. It's just a little bit bigger. That's definitely the regular 12 millimeter. I think is what I put back on that weird sized drain bolt on this one. And I just torqued it. I want to say, I think it was 18 foot-pounds on that one. 18 or 22. Probably 18 on this one. And that's what that paper had on it. Cleaning up where the O-ring sits on the inspection holes, I guess both of them are inspection holes. Timing inspection plugs. The upper one was clean. The bottom one there had a bunch of dirt and stuff in it, and both O-rings were both in good to go on that. And you don't have to crank those down. Those covers will break very easily. So, get it to where it seats and just give it a little tiny bit. Don't get your 1/2 inch or 1 inch bar out there on that thing and, crank it down. It literally goes snug, and the O-ring will hold it in from falling back out. And pulling the oil drain, or the oil fill out, I shouldn't say drain. I already did that. But we use bulk oil in the back. That way we're not having all that plastic extra trash we gotta throw out. So the bulk oil we use is actually Honda GN4 from Honda. So we're not just buying some cheap oil and putting in there. The Honda stuff is actually really good. Say what you want to say, but I've actually been to the facilities that make the Honda oil in the past, and they definitely got a pretty awesome setup, on how they do their stuff there, and all the testing that goes through, with their oil. So, for them to put their name on it, it's got to be some good stuff. You're not just going to put cheap oil into your engine and then it blows up and the oil has the same name as the brand. And my battery had went dead on my GoPro on pretty much right here in the next couple of minutes. So basically what I did next was I had to change out the bars on this thing. Again, I put the lever, whatever you call them there, on it. And while it was on the old bars there, that way I could just use it. I didn't have to pull it all apart yet and have cables and stuff in my way while I was doing the rest of the service. But yeah, pulling the Phillips out. Make sure you have the correct size Phillips. There's different sizes, 1, 2, and 3. Make sure you have that. You'll strip them out. It's made out of real soft material, but I pulled the bars off in this thing, and then I cleaned the air filter as part of the service. I also adjusted the brakes out. I have to go, set the air pressure as well. The rear I already set because I just did the tube and the new tire and the rim strip in it before I started the video. And the front tire I just needed to check and make sure it was at the correct PSI. I actually set it a little higher than what the spec is. Like I said, there is some bigger kids or adults riding this thing, not just the kids that live there. The parents are probably, or friends or something are riding on it too. So I put some more air pressure in the tires than what they normally have in them there. That way they're not bending them, and if somebody is bigger, it gets on there, because it looks like they're kind of pit riding these things around. And then I ended up lubed the chain up. Even though it is a brand new chain, I went ahead and put some of the Honda Pro lube on there. When I pulled the throttle tube off here, made sure that the cables and stuff were all free. They moved really free. I didn't put any of the dry lube in them. Here's kind of a pro tip I want to tell you too on this here. For your kids or even adults, people that wreck a lot, when you put your controls back on, like your when I say controls, your clutch lever, and, the perch itself, and the perch for your your brake side there, put a little bit of plumber's tape underneath of it there and tighten it down, and it will actually spin if you auger the bike into the ground rather than bend or break your lever off. And that's going to be it for today's video. If you like what you saw, please make sure you hit the like button. Also, if you're new, hit the subscribe button. Thanks and have a great day. Peace.